Welcome to the E.A.T podcast. It's episode number 36. I'm your co-host, Jerry. The other co-host over there is Russ. And tonight's guest, honestly, needs no introduction. But hey, here it goes. He's one of the most, if not the most recognizable faces and iconic poker players of all time. Doyle Brunson has quoted him as saying he might be the best poker player ever. He's an ambassador for GG Poker. He won his first major tournament in 1997 at the World Poker Finals. So he was instrumental and a major advocate in helping bring the Vegas Golden Knights to Las Vegas. He's written several books, contributed to Doyle Brunson's Super System 2. He's been in several movies. I'm sure you've seen him sitting at numerous final tables or playing high-stakes poker or even poker after dark back in the day. You might even recognize him from Katy Perry's music video, Waking Up in Vegas. His Twitter following is over 500,000. His YouTube channel has over 650,000 subscribers. He holds the number one spot on poker's popularity ranking list. He's number one on Canada's all-time money list, and he's ranked third on poker's all-time money list. He was named World Series of Poker's Player of the Year in 2004 and 2013, the only person to hold that distinction twice. In 2014, he was also named Best Poker Player of the Decade by Global Poker Index. Also in the same year, he was inducted into the Poker Hall of Fame. Last year, he won the Poker Go Cup. His WSOP and WPT resume is even more impressive than the seven wonders of the world and shines brighter than the neon lights of the Las Vegas Strip. With so many accomplishments under his belt already, you can only assume the best is yet to come. Welcome to the E.A.T podcast, D Negs, Real Kid Poker, Daniel Negreanu.
Okay, I have a question for you guys. So I noticed the intro. I'm just wondering, how much pornography do you watch? Because that music, that had to be straight from a porn track, right? Boom, 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 man. Pizza Man's walk. Oh, look at the Pizza Man's not wearing any pants. Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Oh, that was great.
Yeah, the intro is quite entertaining.
Listen, when you have the accolades and the resume that Daniel Negreanu has, you have to do that. You have to.
Have to go with the porn thing. Got it.
Well, when we do our intro, Russ said our intro music is like 70s elevator porn music.
Correct.
So, those are quite the accolades. I mean, all I got under my belt is 50 chicken wings in one sitting, and so I got a long way to go to get up to your level.
It's quite impressive. All right, so Daniel, you're a Golden Knights fan, but you were a kid growing up in Toronto as a Leafs fan. What was that like, and what are your thoughts on the Maple Leafs and the Golden Knights right now?
Yeah, so I mean, I was a kid growing up in Toronto, and when you're a kid and your team loses and you cry, I bled blue and white, if you will, and then you get older, and then I started to look at the things the management was doing, and it just pissed me off so much. And the straw broke the camel's back when they traded Tuukka Rask for Andrew Raycroft, and I was like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" And I just didn't like the direction. They're doing much better ever since they had Brendan Shanahan come on board, and they sort of dedicated themselves a little bit to an actual proper rebuild, and they picked up Austin Matthews and stuff. So they're certainly a fun team to watch. They've of course got that first round hurdle that they can't seem to get by, and this year, they might be in tough again. They could be up against Tampa Bay, which was not good. As far as the Golden Knights, wow. I mean, talk about drama, right? This team has been drama from day one, right? We had before the season, before the first game, 10 days before, we had a shooting here in Las Vegas. 58 people died. And the Vegas Golden Knights, they did a great job of bringing the city together, and they had the frontline workers come out with the players and stuff. And then they made the finals, right? And you're like, oh, my God, Cinderella, Golden Misfits. But as time has gone on, sort of the image has changed into, ruthless. Mm-hmm. We don't care how much you love this coach, Gerard Gallant, who's an awesome – cut his head. Marc-Andre, chop him. There's no – they're just cutthroat. They're ruthless when it comes to business at this point.
You guys left Gallant at a Florida road stop or pit stop or something, didn't you? You told the guy to go get a cab and threw him off the bus.
I was super happy that Gallant was able to get a job in New York, and also he's got a reunion there with a guy I know he likes is in Ryan Reeves. But I was really disappointed when they did that. It's such bullshit when you think about it. The guy took a ragtag team to the finals, made the playoffs to next year, and next year he's slated to be the all-star coach because the team had the best record. They lose 4 games in a row for the first time ever. And that was the leash for the team. And they cut his head off. And not only that, they replaced him with our arch nemesis enemy, Pete DeBoer of San Jose Sharks because we had a rivalry with them. So it was just like they're just cold-blooded in the way that like they're great about attracting people. Like, come on, it's great, and people love to be here. But when they kick you out of the door, they do so with spikes, bro. Like they just you go for blood. Yeah, nothing kind about it.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, as a Ranger fan in New York, I got to say we saw a lot of Pete DeBoer as a Devil coach. So I mean, now you know rivals for the Rangers here, and now you see that with San Jose being the rival of Vegas, and I couldn't imagine the Rangers bringing in like the Islander coach. I couldn't imagine them bringing in a Barry Trotz. I couldn't imagine them bringing in somebody like that and you're going, oh, that guy, why? Like, I'm sure the reaction to that, had to be crazy, like you just described.
Oh no, people were pissed off. It's like, what are you selling us here? You're telling us we hate these guys, and then you don't even wait 48 hours and you replace Gallant, the guy we love. Mm-hmm. Like the most beloved figures on the team have all been the ones that have gotten the accent. Started with Gallant, they got rid of Nate Schmidt, they got rid of Fleury, and some other, smaller, like small-time players. But yeah, they give zero fucks, I guess, when it comes to like what people think. They do what they think is right. And in one sense, you got to respect it, right? They think this is going to help the team win, and they're dedicated to that. They're going to pull off the Kucherov this year. Stone is going to be like out for the year, and then maybe his back will heal up for game 2 of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I wouldn't put anything past them in terms of what they're willing to do to win.
When you saw that the Eichel trade was coming, or finally announced, what was your initial reaction? Did you think he was the missing piece to get you back to the finals? Or I know, and let me preface it with, I know you guys are up against the cap and you now put Mark Stone on long-term IR. Do you foresee any other trades coming? I mean, Leonard's mentioned to be hurt, and now maybe Flowers back in the mix. What are your thoughts on that with, Eichel making his debut tomorrow?
Well, you talk about drama. That would be dramatic if they brought Fleury back. But I mean, I talked to him today, say, there's no truth to that. Whether or not you can believe him, I would say no. Who knows? But as far as Eichel goes, my hope was that during the offseason, when we got rid of the Fleury salary for nothing, we just sent to Chicago for no return at all. To free up, we got nothing back. And then, so for $7 million in cap space, I thought, all right, well, with this $7 million, you could make a little deal here and you could pick up Jack Eichel, right? So that didn't happen. And then I think they just panicked. And for some reason, they're obsessed with like winning games in the regular season. They went and got Dadonov and Boisson. Boisson's a $2.3 million backup. They signed Janmark for $2 million. That's reasonable. But Dadonov was like, and this is no diss on the guy. I'm sure he's a great guy, but like 32 years old. This is the guy that's supposed to come $5 million a year, 2 years signed, supposed to fix our power play. When in Ottawa, the previous season, he played on the top power play. Now it's Ottawa. He had one assist the entire season, and they're hoping he could rekindle the magic he did in Florida. So here's the problem. They lacked patience. They didn't need to spend that money right away. They were fine going into the season without Dadonov or Brisson. You can pick up any backup for the league minimum and, figure it out later, if you will. So now they found themselves in a bind, in a pickle. When they finally get rid of Eichel, when they finally get Eichel, they give up a shit ton, right?
Oh, they did.
Like, look at what Alex Tuch is doing. He's better than a point-a-game player in Buffalo. Now that he's got a chance. He was stuck in Vegas behind the top 6. He could never get in the top 6. When he did play here and, in the top 6, he was our leading scorer for a little while. So then they pick up Krebs, another good prospect. I think Buffalo did great. As for Vegas, yes, Jack Eichel is a big part of what's missing for this team to do well in the playoffs. And the key reason for that is Jack Eichel's a game breaker. Okay, so what Vegas runs into in the playoffs is teams just go, you know what? You guys can take all the shots from the outside you want. Go ahead. We're just going to collapse in front of the net. And you guys are going to go around the perimeter, take these low percentage shots, and maybe once in a blue you'll beat us with one. They couldn't score anymore. Jack Eichel's a guy where if you try that, he can game break. He can find a way inside the zone and create some offense out of nothing. So I loved Jack Eichel before we got him. Like, he was already one of my favorite players to watch in overtime, especially. Watch this guy 3-on-3. It's like a cheat code. It's like a cheat code. So I was very happy to get Eichel. Sad because I was friendly with Tuch, but I'm happy for Tuch because he's a Buffalo guy, and I think he's going to crush it for Buffalo.
Let me ask you. So obviously, Vegas being a top team in the West with Eichel coming on board, you got Colorado, who's built to win. There's rumors of Giroux from Philly possibly wanting to go there. Minnesota's having a good year. St. Louis has a goalie that could steal a playoff series or two. Won a cup in the past. Calgary's got another goalie who's having a phenomenal year. What team scare you think is the biggest competition for Vegas out west?
Well, yeah, all of them, all the ones. No, for real. Like, I think when we're at our best and if we're healthy, like, I do think that we are the best team in the West. Having said that, Colorado's scary. The question with Colorado, Nate McKinnon is coming back tonight, so that's big for them. But Kadri's been amazing. I don't know how, but Kadri's another guy who, when the Leafs would play the Bruins, he played for the Leafs, but he was the Bruins MVP. Like, he did it like 2-3 years in a row. It's insane. But I think Colorado's just got a lot of firepower. The question for them is like, is goaltending going to be an issue for them? Are they going to make a deal to add?
Well, that's the question for them: is what happens if Colorado acquires a Fleury? I think then you really got to watch out.
Yeah, but I do think one of the things that I think in the playoffs, Vegas, as you saw, they did come back and beat Colorado last year. One of the things that I think they did well was defensively. Mark Stone, as a winger, just defends really, really well against the guys like McKinnon and the deadly weapons, and was able to shut them down for the most part. So a healthy Stone would go a long way towards handling Colorado. The other team that's kind of scary now is Calgary. They added Toffoli, and the thing about them is like they've given us an ass whooping a couple times, like at home, like when they're at home. We've lost like 6-0 to that team. They're fast. They're faster than Vegas. Vegas, they started out in season 1 and they were the fastest team. They played a different style that Gallant, put forth that he's helping the Rangers create, which is a very big counter strategy. Like you get the puck, you move it up ice, quick. Now the team is much more possession oriented. You got slower guys like Pacioretty and Stone, and they had Stasny for a while that just kind of like changed the team a little bit. So they're definitely like when you face off against Calgary, the speed is an issue for sure.
Okay, and now I mean Russ and I are big Ranger fans. We bleed blue, as they say. What teams in the East? We got a whole bunch. Toronto's a good team. You're familiar with them. The Rangers are having a great year with Gallant. You're familiar with him. Boston is always looming as a good team with the top line they have. Carolina, Florida. We can go through the whole run as well. What teams in the East scare you, to meet up in the finals if Vegas were to get there?
Well, I don't know about scare yet because, if you make it to the final, you're happy. But obviously, like, you look at Tampa Bay, right? And it's like they've tinkered with the bottom 6 a little bit, but the core pieces are all still there. And they have the best goalie in the world, Vasilevsky. I think it's bar none. I think it's kind of it's out of question to consider anybody else better than Vasilevsky this year and in the last 3 years. So they have that going for them. And listen, they've won twice in a row, so they know how to do it. They're smart. They don't care about the regular season. They just don't give a shit where they finish. It doesn't matter. Like it's the home ice thing. Obviously it's nice to have home ice, but it's not integral to winning the cup. We've seen that year in and year out. The one team that I really enjoy watching, probably because of my fantasy connection to them, is the Carolina Hurricanes. Mm-hmm. Because, man, they got 4 deep lines. Like you got Kakanyemi, who was playing in Montreal, and they were putting him in a top 6 role, and the kid's barely 21. Now he's on the 4th line, and he's playing with, some weapons over there. Like they're deep on defense. Freddie Anderson moved from Toronto. They said he was the problem. He's been great for them. So Carolina's great. And then you look at Florida too. Florida's the other team that just dunks on teams too. They're like, oh, it's 7-1.
Like crazy, yeah.
We're not done. They're going for an extra field goal. They're trying to hit 10. Like their fans for the game. I think they were up 8-2 or something against Philly, and the fans were screaming, "We want 10. We want 10." They ended up getting 9, right? Padding their stats. Yeah, they don't take the foot off the throttle. They try to embarrass you. So I think like overall, there's way more fire. There's so much more firepower in the East than there is in the West. Like they're going to have a bloodbath. Like if you look at where Toronto's, sitting, they might play either Tampa or Florida.
Yeah.
First round. Like congrats. No, that's brutal.
Hey, let me ask you. So if Toronto makes another early exit, is that coach done? That team is built to win now.
What is it? Sheldon Keefe, right?
Yeah. Is the coach toast if they don't go? They got rid of Babcock. They brought in Keefe. They bring in Tavares and everybody else they have there, Austin Matthews and everyone. Is that the expectations are huge? But what happens if they have an early exit again?
Yeah, no, I think part of it, like Toronto fans sort of expect it. They were like, they've become woe is me Chicago Cub type fans now. Well, of course, this happens to us. But that's definitely a piece because what's like if they do get knocked out in the first round, right? Toronto's the center of the hockey universe in terms of like media attention. So there will be a lot of attention on like, all right, what are you going to do to fix this, right? Mm-hmm. And often, whether it's their fault or not, the coach is the one that goes down. So you could see that as a possibility. I think it might be premature. I think there's a couple other things the team should focus on that they've done actually a better job of this year. They play much more defensively sound. I'm not so sold on Jack Campbell and
I was just about to say that how he performs in the playoffs is going to be key. He's having a great year, but
yeah, he's having a great year. Yes and no. Like in one sense, you look at his numbers and you're like, wow, he's got good numbers. But the other point, you look at actually the team's playing better defensively. So his goals saved above expectation are actually negative. So he hasn't been quite as good as his record and his GAA might show.
I got you. It's the opposite of our Igor.
Yeah.
His goals saved above expectations are, I think, first in the league.
Yeah, that's a good goalie.
He's been keeping us winning.
All right, so let's get into some poker and Vegas talk real quick, and then we'll get back to hockey. But Daniel, at a young age of 22, you went to Vegas, and Vegas does for a lot of people what it does. You kind of went busto and went back home. Can you talk about that for a few minutes? What were your expectations when you were at a young age and having success playing in Toronto, and then you went to Vegas? What did you think was going to happen compared to what actually happened?
Yeah, so as you said, I played poker in Toronto, right? And in Toronto, I sort of became the big fish, right? In a pond full of mediocre players or whatever. So as a young kid, when you're that age, you think, oh my God, I'm the best. I'm the best. I got it all figured out. I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to clean them out, right? The thing about Vegas, though, especially at that time, is they saw hometown heroes come and go on the regular. You know what I mean? It's very, very common. A guy comes in, I'm the best, and then gets his, wallet cleaned out. That's what happened for me. I remember playing in a game, and it was like 3 a.m. And I'm playing with 7 people. I went to the bathroom, washed my face, came back out. By the time I did, they were all gone. So that told me something. It's like it was the first time and first experience I had with me being the sucker, where they were only playing because of me. So I remember that. It was a bruise to my ego, but it was very necessary in me realizing, all right, just because you beat up on people in Toronto doesn't mean that you're going to just walk into Vegas and, play your game and it's going to be enough. So I had to learn to add texture to my game. I had to learn to be, instead of just like a bull in a china shop, right? Where people in Toronto didn't have a defense against that. In Vegas, I was a bull, but they pushed back. They fought back. And I didn't know how to deal with that at all.
And then going back to Toronto, obviously, you honed in on your skills and figured out what you did wrong there. And then when you went back, the rest is basically a storybook. If you're looking at it from the outside, the way I see things.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it was a back and forth of, going to Vegas, licking my wounds, coming back to Toronto to rebuild, get some money again, so that I can go back to Vegas and do it again. Go broke, go back home again, do it again until finally I was able to add the kind of texture and I guess texture is the best word for it to my game where it wasn't so predictable. I learned the table image and how people perceive me is really important, and I started to adjust my game for that.
Your poker resume is one of the greatest of all time. 2 World Poker titles, 9 final tables, 25 cashes. WSOP in the World Series of Poker, 6 bracelets, 36 final tables, 206 cashes, 45 million in total live earnings. I mean, it's up there with the best. What haven't you accomplished yet in poker that you have as a goal down the road?
Well, I guess the main event of the World Series of Poker is ridiculous. It's 8,000 people, right? But it's still something that every poker player dreams of winning. There's also the Poker Players Championship. I've come 5th in that. It's a 50K. It's 8 game. It's all the mixes and all that stuff. And I pride myself on being a well-rounded player. So there's a couple key tournaments that I have not won. And there's now a new tour, the Poker Go Tour, which is basically all the high rollers in the world. This year, they're doing a really cool thing where the top 6 point getters are going to play off for $500,000 at the end of the year. So my goal is to, crack that top 6, put in some volume and do that. But I always like to reinvent myself, and travel's not a thing for me anymore. I used to travel a decent amount. I love staying home. People even tell me, "Oh, can you come play in our show in LA?" I'm like, I don't live in LA. You have but I don't.
I hear you. The older you get, the more you just become a homebody.
Yeah, I mean, also, with the COVID stuff, when it first happened, we locked down pretty hard for 18 months and stuff, and we both like it, me and my wife. We enjoy staying home, so it became kind of comfortable. And then I'm like, man, fuck, I don't want to go on the road. I just like being home. So let's just quarantine for life. QT for life, baby.
You just love being home and binging Netflix.
Yeah, a little. I mean, watching the hockey games. Like I'm on my couch right now. I got 3 TVs set up. I can watch all the games. I got my laptop here. It's just I got everything. I got a gym upstairs. I got what I need.
Yeah, when you're a fan as big as me, you follow Daniel. You see, the golf course in the backyard, and you see the arcade setup he has, and the 3 TVs. I mean, it's something. It's impressive. It really is. It's like a kid's playground over there for you.
So let me ask you a question here. Your first cash in the World Series of Poker was also the first time you won it in '97. A nice little $169,000 pot. And I got a question. You were very, very young, and also you were the youngest at the time until who was it? Scott Fishman broke your record in 2004. Being that young, how overwhelming was it? Did you have people coming out of the woodwork like to be your best friend and sponsors up your ass and trying to sucker you in and get close to you? And, was there a lot of that going on?
Yeah, that was an interesting time for me, right? Because it was around 1998, and I started playing the tour, if you will, but it was like $100, $200, $300 buy-ins, and in 3 spots in a row, 4 spots, three actually, 3 different cities, I'd won a tournament. So like I was making my mark, But the World Series where I was at, and I never played a World Series event because the buy-ins there, you're talking 2,000 or above, and I'm like $100, $200 player, right? So I finally play a satellite, and I get 3-handed with Todd Brunson and Mike Matusow, and I win it. And Todd throws me a $500 chip and says, you should play the pot limit hold'em tomorrow. I'll take a piece. I was like, wow, if the Brunson thinks I can play, then I'm going to do it. So it was my first event ever, the World Series. Not only my first cash, my first event I'd ever played, and I won it in a game that I'd never even played before. So for me, that was, pretty epic. But yeah, as you said, and now I had all this money, and I went on loan, so I'm just meeting Vegas kind of people here and there, and all that money was gone eventually. And it wasn't because I lost it. I helped this guy out, loan this guy, stake this guy, and you learn your lessons that way, or at least I did back then. But for sure, at that time in '98, it wasn't like you had big sponsors, right? There was talk of that, but what? I mean, Nike wasn't sponsoring poker at the time, or maybe they still aren't. But there wasn't online poker either, so there really wasn't any huge sponsors. Like sponsors didn't come around until like the TV boom, which
probably
happened
mid 2000s.
Yeah, 2003, 2004.
Yeah, but that's when you started seeing it on ESPN regularly, and
yep.
But still, I can just imagine you winning an event like that, and just people coming out of the woodwork to be your friend, and just everybody wanting to get near you and close to you.
Well, yeah, to a certain degree, and I made friends with it's funny because a lot of the friends that I made were all the guys that were like kind of broke and struggling. Because even before, I didn't have any money. I bought in this tournament $2,000. My bankroll was $2,800. Viewer discretion is advised. Do not do that.
Yes,
I had $2,800 in my name.
A prayer.
I had $2,800 in my name. I put $2,000 into a poker tournament. Stupid, but I won it. And I made a lot of dumb mistakes as a kid. So that I learned what works and what doesn't.
Well, in the end, you might not call it a mistake, though. It started your career, really.
Well, that's an interesting thing you say, because when I think of mistakes, I think making mistakes is not the mistake, really, because everyone makes mistakes no matter what you do. Learning nothing from those mistakes, now that's the mistake, right? So every time you make a mistake, whatever it is, it's an opportunity for a breakthrough. It's an opportunity for you to look deep and go, okay, what didn't work about what I did? What can I fix? How can I change so that the next time I'm confronted with a similar situation, I handle it better, right? So that's the value of mistakes. Like a lot of people, they get down on themselves when they make a mistake, but I like to say, no, let's dig deep. Let's take a look at your successes and your failures. Let's think about what worked when you succeeded, what didn't work when you failed, and let's take a look at how you can adjust, so that way next time you're ready to go. So I really do look at mistakes as an opportunity for a breakthrough. In this Poker Go that I just played, the Poker Go Cup, trying to defend my title, I won another event, came 5th in the final, but I made a mistake in every event. But they're so minor, these mistakes, right? I guess the best way to describe it, as you get better at something, the mistakes become more finite, right? So when you start golfing, the goal is just to hit the damn ball and put it in the air, right? Hey, you succeeded. It went in the air, right? Then as you get better, you're like, oh, I want to hit it on the green, right? Okay, cool, I hit it on the green. Then when you get to the pro level, they want to hit it 4 yards past the hole and have it spin back 4 yards. So when they don't, and they hit it 7 yards past and it's only 2 feet, that's a mistake. They see that as okay, inefficiency, right? And that's the thing is with poker, it's the same. So the mistakes that I made, you guys wouldn't think they're mistakes. You're like, oh, that sounds all right. Yeah, but there was a slightly better play available. And I always look to fine tune everything that I do.
Good.
Hey Daniel, you just alluded to like sponsorships coming into play, and roughly was it early 2000s? That was roughly when Moneymaker, satellited himself into the World Series main event and won the whole shebang. Do you think? And I asked Phil Hellmuth this question when he was on the show. Do you think if somebody else won that event, whether it was yourself, a Hellmuth, an Ivy, a Sammy Farha, or somebody else, do you think poker would be what it is today? Do you think we would have gotten where it is?
Yeah, obviously it's an interesting question. What Moneymaker sold is the dream that anybody could win, because then we saw the numbers just skyrocket after that year, right? But I think honestly, it being on ESPN, in like the dramatic way that it was, I think like when you think of a Sammy Farha who had that, who had the cigar dangling, he was wearing the suit. You had Phil Ivey, the young, black superstar kind of thing. There were storylines that I think still could have been, pivotal for poker's growth. But the perfect storm of a guy named Moneymaker, and that's like his real name, goes in $40, wins a satellite, and then wins the main event. It's hard to beat that as a top story, right? So, so he was part of like what I consider like a perfect storm.
Yeah, that's what really got me into poker, was watching him on TV and watching all that, and Poker After Dark and everything else that exploded after that. It was the perfect storm, like you said. It sucked a lot of people in, including myself.
Yeah.
So you guys did the Heads Up Challenge, where you had a year-long feud with fellow poker pro Doug Polk. You finally accepted the challenge publicly for the grudge match, and after 25,000 hands, playing two tables, 200, 400, the event was streamed on GG Poker's YouTube channel. The duel finally ended in February after 25,000 hands and a loss of 1.2 million. Let me ask you, first of all, how the hell does somebody play 25,000 hands and not go crazy?
25,000 hands. How the hell? I know it's 6 months, over 6 months, but how the hell does that work?
Well, I mean, listen, we were playing two tables at once, right? And it's online, so it's much faster. You click a button and it starts the next hand and whatnot. So we were playing, I don't remember, it was like 500 to 700 hands per session, a few sessions each week. And, obviously when I took on the challenge, I knew I was going in as a significant underdog. He was a specialist. It would be like, I mean, I guess try to think of an analogy. You think of like Kawhi Leonard, right? Who's an NBA star. And then you think of Steph Curry. It's like Kawhi Leonard, who's good at basketball. He's good at all the games. But, facing off against Steph Curry in the three-point competition, right? He's going to be a dog because Curry's, that. And so he was already a heads-up, stud at like online poker especially. So I knew I'd go in as an underdog. But again, I thought it'd be a good challenge. I thought it'd be good for poker to sort of create like some drama, if you will. And I mean, I knew I could afford it. Like, it sounds like an insane amount of money. And I think a lot of people would be like, whoa. But really, when you break it down, it's like 30 buy-ins, which, because we bought the buy-in for each one is like 40,000 per. So 30 buy-ins is like over 25,000 hands. That's a pretty small. I mean, it sounds big, and I get it, but it's really not as crazy as people think in terms of like it could have went a much different way. I'm not saying I was a favorite, but I think as time went on, I started to get better and better, through practice. But overall, I see it as like, despite losing, I see it as a positive experience because it spawned like a lot of hard work in my own game, right? So I got better, and it's helped me continue to stay relevant in the tournaments that I play.
Let me ask you. So after a long night of that, you play 750 hands, over the course of 5 hours or whatever it was. Now, you had some swings where you were up on a certain night and you got beat, badly on a certain night. How do you decompress after a night like that? Is that like you walk away from the office and you're like, all right, let me go get a bottle of wine, let me have a beer, let me just have a chit chat with my wife, let me go hit some golf balls? Or are you back with your team or even yourself watching the video and seeing what you did and how you can make yourself better? Like, after that rush of emotion and adrenaline, right after it, what are you doing to either get away from it, or are you hitting the pavement hard to figure out what just happened?
My process was walk the dogs when I'm done, right? Because they're antsy. So walk the puppies. And then as soon as I'm done walking the puppies, get on the computer with my guys, and we spend 6 to 8 hours going over every hand that we played. Jesus. And then so we can fine tune and get ready for the next session. Now, there were a couple nights where that also included a bottle or two of wine, but that was rare. That was the exception to the rule. We usually took weekends off. So if I was going to do the drinking, it would probably be on a Friday, just kind of like unwind. And then we'd make the adjustments we thought were necessary. But yeah, it was because I was learning game theory at a high level in a very like small amount of time. Like, this is something that would take, I think, most people 4 to 5 years, myself included, to master. It's like to understand this stuff at a high level is very difficult. I had about 2 to 4 weeks. So you're 4 years. I'm doing it in freaking 2 to 4 weeks. So I was learning on the job, if you will. Like I was already in the match, but I wasn't prepared yet. I was, just going through the motions for the most part, learning what I did and then adding to it. Like the way they described it was, so my poker game already existed over 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think about it like a souped up car, right? They got to take everything apart and then rebuild the frame. Then you start to add the tires and all the wheel and all this kind of stuff and windshield wipers. So as we were going, we started with the frame again, try to just restart, then adding tools as I went. So my toolbox was really limited for the first probably month of the challenge.
Okay. And then shortly after that, you went and had a high-stakes Duel 2 with Phil Hellmuth, another event where you experienced crazy swings, significant chip leads. Came up short on that one. After 3 matches, Phil walked away and cashed out. How would you sum that up? And let me ask you, when it was all over and he said he was done playing after 3 matches, were you upset? Did you want to continue? Was this something you would have kept going until you figured out how to beat him?
I mean, I'd obviously play till I died, like forever. But I already knew he would quit. Like, he doesn't like to play super high stakes. I know he's more conservative with his bankroll, whatever. And I also think he didn't like playing me because I'm one of the few people that he considers a critic, because I don't just say, oh, you're the greatest. Like, I play at the highest levels with a lot of the best players in the world today. And like, these guys who grind every day, 10, 12 hours a day, like, they're at the top of the game right now. So he doesn't like that I sort of question his greatness and whatnot. But yeah, no, I would obviously play him. As far as the whole thing, I was like, it was one of the most surreal things ever. To lose once would have been like shocking to him. But to lose like 3 times in the way that it went down, like the first one I had him down to nothing and was toying with him a little bit, probably shouldn't have done that. And then all the way back and just hit every fucking river card for like 3 straight matches. But like, it was clear, like every match I was winning when the stacks were deep, handily, without much risk. And then the blinds go up and then it becomes much more luck based. And that's when I just, didn't run very well. And, but like I said, he's somebody that I would, obviously I would play for any stakes at any time.
Let me ask you, there's a lot of talk about a Mount Rushmore of poker. And, your resume is impressive. Phil's resume is impressive. People attack Phil for numerous reasons as well. He only plays World Series events or lacks the high stakes matchups like you were just mentioning. Let me ask you, who is your top 4 players of all time?
Well, I want to do the Rushmore thing because it's hard to say players. So for me, when I think back to, the Rushmore, it's going to be Chip Reese, Doyle Brunson, Stu Unger, and Johnny Moss. Like, because I think, Mount Rushmore doesn't have it like, current people. It's old, right? So I'm thinking like, who was the grassroots that started it all? Those are big names. As far as like, if you go a little more modern, to the next sort of chapter, you're talking about.
That's my next question.
Right. You're talking about guys like Phil Hellmuth. You're talking about Phil Ivey. I think, belongs on that list. I think myself, maybe someone like Eric Seidel, who still plays at the highest levels and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, and then you could take that further and see like, who would be the youngest version of the Mount Rushmore. But the skill level of the players as we get, as more tools become available, increases. So if I could play myself in 2005, like the 2005 version of me couldn't come close. The 2022 version of me would mash that guy. Right? But at the time in 2004, 2005, I was so far ahead of the curve in terms of my strategy that people didn't understand. I was exploiting people significantly by not playing a balanced strategy. I was under bluffing, if you will. So if I put big money in on the river, I had it. I didn't bluff. There was no point because people called too much. So I could throw a lot of jabs and create the illusion that I'm this big bluffer, but just never bluff, right? So knowing that now, the 2022 version of me, I would crush that guy, just destroy him.
So that leads me to this question then, it's bluffing and everything. What do you think are some of the easiest tells of opponents? Is it just, increased breathing, lack of eye contact, or just tapping of chips? Like, what do you think are most common tells people have?
Yeah, I think, there's something to be said about the chip glance tell, right? So, when the flop comes out, the 3 cards, right? Like if you look at someone's eyes, they subconsciously will either do one of two things. They'll just continue to stare blankly at the flop, or sometimes what they'll do is when the flop comes out, they glance at their chips. Okay. It's a subconscious thing they're doing. And it's because what they saw, they like.
They like, because
The next thing the mind does is say, okay, I got to bet. So where's your chips? Down here. So you look down at your chips. Conversely, if somebody just keeps staring at the board, they're like, I don't know. I don't have nothing.
I get shit.
So when you see that, for example, if that player checks to you and it's up to you, if you see the chip glance, tell them, no, they're coming. They're coming. And when they don't, you can go ahead and bluff them.
Daniel, let me ask you, do you see people sitting at a poker table and go, oh crap, this guy again? Is there anybody out there that annoys you sitting next to, whether it's talkative or they're just the way they act or conduct themselves?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? Like Mike Matiso's a guy who, like, in small doses is fine, right? But when you have to sit at a table with him for 8 to 10 hours, and imagine, like, your thinking thoughts right now. Imagine every single one, totally pure or whatever, he just speaks them out. Like, there's no filter. He's constantly talking. He's talking to himself. He's trying to talk to people. Doesn't care what's going on with the hands, whatever. He's just like constantly diarrhea out of the mouth. So after hours of it, it's such nonsense that comes out of it. Sometimes it's like, I can't listen to this. It's too much.
Just sit there and be like, Mike, shut the fuck up.
Bring headphones for.
Daniel, when I told some people that you were coming on the show, the first thing out of their mouth was, obviously you're recognizable. They know who you are. You're one of the biggest and best. But a lot of people said to me, oh, that's that guy that sits at the table, looks across the table, and knows the exact 2 cards that opponent has. As a poker guy, how the hell do you do that?
It's a combination of 2 things, right? First and foremost, it's a combination of betting patterns. So let's say, for example, there's like a grid of all the possible poker hands, okay? Everything that the person does gives you information about hands that they can and they can no longer have, okay? So let's say I'm playing with a guy who I know plays conservatively, and he's raised under the gun, okay? So what do I know? I know he doesn't have 8-3 offsuit, 7-deuce offsuit. I know he's probably got a range of hands. It's like big pairs, big suit, an ace picture, suited aces, a couple Broadway cards like king, queen, stuff like that, right? So now on the flop, he bets or he checks. Now all of a sudden, if he bets, I go, okay, well, he doesn't have that anymore. He doesn't have this. And often by the river, you've narrowed it down to just a couple possibilities now, And then you have the physical aspect. Do they look confident? Do they look like they're bluffing? So then you see that the guy looks like he's, very, very confident. And you're like, all right, I guess you have the aces, don't you? Right? Because everything makes sense that you have aces. So it's really a process of elimination where you start with like a big grid of possible hands, and then for each action, it shrinks until you have just a couple left.
Yeah, I've seen it, and it's amazing. Let me ask you, piggybacking off of that, who was the hardest person you've played against to get a read on? Is there somebody that you can't read, or is there somebody that it took, let's say, 10 sessions or 5 sessions where you're like, all right, I finally got this guy pegged?
Yeah, there are definitely some players that I still don't have a read on, that I've played with plenty in terms of a physical tell. Now, as a poker player, right, it would be similar to, being an athlete and saying, okay, let me give you a psychological advantage by saying who you are. I don't do that. Like, I'm not going to name a name, right? Because if I name a name, now that guy knows I don't have a read on him. It frees him up a little bit.
Understood.
Right? So yeah, naming a name would be probably not ideal. Yeah, but there's definitely a handful for sure.
Is there anybody that intimidates you when you sit at a table, or you don't care who you're playing?
I wouldn't say that anyone intimidates me per se, but there are definitely some guys who make me realize I got to raise my awareness of what's happening, because they can put you in really tough spots playing super aggressive. And it's one guy recently who just came on the scene, and he's been just dominating. He's like by far the most dominant player in the game right now. And his name is Michael Adamo. And Michael Adamo comes with a completely different brand of poker that nobody's ever seen before. And I remember playing the Super High Roller Bowl, and he busted me in like 20 minutes playing this huge pot. He got me to play his game, and I was like, what the fuck did he just do? And he just outplayed me in the spot where he went crazy, but it worked, And so it made me realize, like, okay, I wasn't ready to show up there, It was hand one, we're early, just, get your bearings or whatever. But no, with him, you got to be ready to play every hand, every street, every decision. understanding like anytime you make a decision, he may do stuff you're not used to. For example, you bet the turn, you think, all right, I got top pair, I'll bet half the pot. Some people might raise you a little bit, they might call you. He might raise you a ton. Like you bet 3,000, he goes 80,000.
What the hell just happened?
6 times the pot, right? So with him, you have to be much more wary of every decision you make. You can't just go through the motions with him. You have to like really be on your toes because he's capable and he's got balls of steel. So if he thinks the move will work, he'll try it.
Daniel, we've seen you play for, I want to say astronomical stakes. So the average poker player plays 1, 2, 2, 5, 10, 20, whatever it is. You sit down at a poker table with a couple of stacks. Yeah. When you sit down and buy in for 500K, $1 million, and it's a significant amount. Is there an amount of money that would make you feel uncomfortable with where your game is today, or you don't care? You're going to sit down with whatever the amount of money is, and you're going to get that read off that person, and you're going to win. Is that
but
the mindset is?
So I'm not afraid. Like the stakes don't matter that much to me. Having said that, when I was young, the goal was to build a bankroll, right? Mm-hmm. So I would take shots. I go broke. It's fine. I'm 47 now, right? I have no interest in going back to start all over again. Okay.
Yeah.
So I got money. I don't give a shit about money. Like to me, to go play in a game, the $1 and $2 million blinds, you could lose 50 million. I don't want to fucking play in that game. Well, so you can win. There are a bunch of, suckers and like whatever. I'm like, I don't care. It's like the thing is there's a risk reward eventually when you get to a certain amount in your life, right? When you have $500 to your name, who cares? You blow it, it's easier to replenish that. But if you become wealthy, right, it's very difficult to replace that kind of a bankroll. Mm-hmm. So it's really, really stupid. So as you get older and as you amass, your bankroll management should be more conservative. I used to play regularly in my 20s in games where all my money was on the table, everything I had, all the time. I wouldn't do that today because, we're past that point now.
Yeah, now it's a completely different story. As age happens, you get better.
You don't need the stress. And besides, I stay home. What do I need the fucking money for? What would I do? So that's the thing. Is you ask yourself, all right, how much would it enhance your life to have? Let's say, for example, let's just throw out a number. Let's say you had $50 million.
Okay.
How much better do you think your life would be if you had 100 million? Right? It would make no fucking difference, really.
Yeah, at that point, 50 to 100, it's significant. Don't get me wrong,
right.
But how much significant is it?
It really isn't. But if you took that 50 million and went to zero, how much would that change your life?
Oh, forget it.
Right? So let me ask you this: would you do this? Would you flip a coin for your net worth right now, where you were getting 10 to 1 odds? 50% chance
Jesus Christ.
To get 10 times your money, or you're dead broke. That depends where you are in life.
Yeah, that depends where you are in life. Yes.
So I wouldn't do it. But when I was in my 20s, if I had $3,000, hell yeah, all day. Right?
Let's go.
So moving on, I always like the celebrity questions. So
yep.
What celebrity have you played with you think is probably the best legitimate poker player?
Yeah, that's no question. It's Tobey Maguire.
I saw that I read that you coached him.
Kinda. I mean, we talked about hands a little bit in the beginning, but he makes a lot of money playing poker. There was a movie that came out called Molly's Game.
Yep.
Yes.
True story-ish.
Based in New York.
Yeah. He's definitely one of the characters, right? It's pretty obvious to those that know which character he is, but he's definitely like a shark in that world. Like he can make, he makes way more money than most professional poker players playing poker. Like he does not need to make movies anymore.
That's impressive.
If you're willing to name them, it's up to you. Who do you think is probably the worst poker player you played with as far as
anybody you're like, oh, they shouldn't even bother playing anymore?
Well, there's a whole bunch of guys
who's just throwing away their money,
Well, yeah, there's a lot of, beginners and stuff you see at different charity events who don't know what they're doing, but, they're not necessarily playing high stakes. I got a good buddy who plays for the Arizona Cardinals for now. I mean, the Arizona Coyotes for now, Phil Kessel. Hopefully he moves. Maybe he'll come to New York. That'd be a great fit.
I've been saying I want him.
We'd love to have him. So he loves to play, right? He loves to play. He loves to play pot limit Omaha, but he doesn't seem. He loves the game. He's got a saying too for hockey. Nice guy, tries hard, loves the game. That's your way of saying you suck. He's a nice guy, tries hard, and loves the game.
I was telling Russ over the weekend, I said Phil Kessel and Claude Giroux or Joe Pavelski are the two players as a Ranger fan I would want to see them go get, build a third line around for a playoff run and see where it gets them.
Well, I only want Kessel because I think with our team, it'll give him, some weapons to play with. Plus, we're really short at depth on the right wing with Kako out now. So,
and the thing you'll find with Kessel is he's having, I really do believe this. I think he's having one of his best seasons ever. Okay. Now think of context. He's scored more goals and been point per game. He's done all that, right? Mm-hmm. He's playing in Arizona. They're about to play in an arena with 2,000 people. Okay. This team is like stripped to the bare bones. It is dog shit. It is one of the worst assembled teams we've ever seen. So what he's had to do as a goal scorer is he's got nobody to pass him the puck, really. So he's facilitating. He's leading the team in assists by a wide margin by creating offense. And if you think about the cup runs with Pittsburgh and the power play in Pittsburgh, they got Malkin, they got Crosby. You know who ran the power play? Kessel. Kessel would run it from the wall, right? So you think about the dynamic there, and I think he's always gotten sort of a bad rap of being out of shape. That's not true. The guy's strong as an ox. Okay, he's just
everybody says that he has the love for hot dogs.
No, but it's funny because one of my avatars is him on the golf course with the Stanley Cup, and inside it he's got like 6 hot dogs. To the Toronto media, right? But I could see him really helping there. I mean, you obviously have a young team, but it's a young team that could surprise. I think Adam Fox's resurgence, and you got Shesterkin, and you got a couple of young guys who could still have steps to go in Lafreniere and Kako. But then you have that top line, and you got Panarin, you got Zibanejad, you got.
Well, I think also too is
what the fuck is Kreider doing? I mean, I had Kreider.
Oh yeah, I know.
And he was the best player ever.
He's doing what we wanted him to do in his prime, and it only took him like 9 years.
I didn't have him this year. I got rid of my switch. I actually traded for Zibanejad. It's been great for me, really great. But Kreider's been unbelievable. And I'm like, I do believe that it's unsustainable what he's doing, but the fact that he's a garbage goal guy and he can do that, he adds a lot to the team. Like, I love the team. I love the coach. Like, I love Gerard Gallant. Right? Mm-hmm. Here's the thing about Gallant: his players will play hard for him because he's fair. Right? He's tough, but he's fair. If you play hard, you play. If you do, like Lafreniere, a couple games, he was playing third or fourth line. He wasn't getting much time. It's not personal, but if you're not coming hard and you're not ready to play at the NHL level and do what it takes, you'll wait in line. He doesn't care what your price tag is. Oh, this guy's a $9 million player. Well, he's not good right now, so he doesn't play.
It's kind of why I like Torts. I know there's a little different style, but everything I've read about Torts says a lot of the same things too.
Except Torts is a complete dinosaur. All the stuff is doing is terrible for the game. I'm like, the most viral moment in the NHL this year is Trevor Zegras goals, and he's like.
Well, I do think he had a point though. His point, he did say it was an amazing play. If you listen to the whole thing, his point though is that he didn't feel it was good for the game because now you got every kid in Pee Wee trying to do it and not concentrating on the basics per se. So there is a little bit of validity.
Yeah, I still think he's completely wrong. And because he also said that, if a player did that on his team, he would scold them,
No, I'm agreeing with you on that. I'm just saying there is a little.
I understood his underlying point about, he wants to remain, the game needs to be tough and honest and hardworking. But, you can still have that with the speed, with the panache, with the talent, to sell the game, right? When you think of NBA, there's a whole bunch of moments that are really cool highlight moments, these alley-oops and different kind of crazy, hockey having that is fantastic. It's great. And the kids today, they're just capable of doing things at a high level that no one ever thought of before. Nobody ever thought of
athletic. They're more creative.
Nobody ever thought of you just even look at Zegras' goal that he scored in the All-Star, in the All-Star competition.
Oh, that was incredible.
Shit, bro. What the hell is that?
Him being blindfolded and doing that was amazing.
So that's the thing is the game evolves, right? And you got to evolve with it. And, Torts is the game's never going to be like it was in the 70s with the Bruins, with the Flyers, just beating the shit out of everybody. Yep. It's you can't do that anymore. It's just the game's changed.
I agree with you on that point. My only thing was that I just agreed with him on the fact that, a lot of kids aren't even bothering with the basics anymore. They just want the flashy goal.
Yeah, but I don't think that's actually true, right? So the stuff they'll do in their, in their spare time is they're practicing these high skills, but when they're playing the games, the coaches are still coaching them to play the game properly. I don't think it's now they're going to stop completely learning the fundamentals. I think it's just an added fun thing for them.
So on a side note, then, what did you find more impressive? His flip from the behind the net, flip over the net goal, or his just on the fly lacrosse Michigan fucking goal?
I mean, I think because it's never been done before, the pass to Milano and the goal is like you could see his reaction. He's like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
But I laughed though. Even the lacrosse Michigan style, he did that like it was fucking nothing. Like he didn't even think about it. He didn't take the time to pick up the puck like the original. He just did it on the fly and boom, and it was just an everyday.
That's the amazing thing is just how easy he makes it look, and like how difficult it is now for goalies, right? So like he was able to make that happen with Milano because now the goalies are like, all right, they're scouting him. They're like, all right, you got to cover because he's going to do the Michigan. So you go to the right. He's like, nope, I'm flipping it over the top, and the whole left side of the net is wide open for Milano to just tap it in. Crazy.
Hey Daniel, let me ask you. So you're under the GG Poker brand, and you're the face of the company or one of the faces of the company. Let me ask you about somebody else, Dan Blazarian. What are your thoughts on him? Is he? I mean, honestly, we see him with all the girls, all the toys, all the guns, the life he has on yachts and everything else. He's flashy. He is who he is with his social media following. Is he a good poker player?
Well, I mean, listen, define good poker player, right? If he sat down with all the best players in the world, like all the wizards and stuff, would he win? No. But does he win? And does he win a lot of money because he plays in games that are, full of weaker players? Absolutely. So what is the end goal in poker? To win money, right? He's won about maybe arguably as much as anybody, right? So from that perspective, and listen, the thing is, me and Dan, like in a lot of things, we completely disagree, right? But I respect anybody who's willing to just be who they are and give no fucks. Like he's unapologetic about who he is. If you don't like it, that's fine. He smokes weed, he sells weed. He likes to have a bunch of women around him. None of the women around him have a gun to their head and are forced to stay. They want to be there. They get to party on yachts. They get to travel with them. They do all these things. These are not victims of Dan Blazarian. You know what I mean? Like they're willingly participants in whatever, lifestyle that he's offering, right? You can say it's braggadocious and sexist and all those things. And, you could make those points, right? But it's not for you. But as far as like, I don't think that I'm not into canceling people and any of that shit. Like I don't, whatever. So like he is who he is unapologetically. Like I said, I disagree with him. We talk privately about it, like a lot of stuff, whether it's politically and different things, but that's okay. I don't judge people solely by and I think it's unfortunate the world we're in now where, I had someone who, I really like that guy. And then they heard one thing that the person said that didn't align with their beliefs. And like, I hate that guy now. Like, really? You agree with like 90% of things he said is a slightly different take on the vaccine or the fucking, COVID or whatever. And now you hate the person? Like, hold your horses here, Too much.
Sadly, that's a lot of people these days.
Yeah. I try my best to sort of, there's a limit, right? Like, I mean, but I try my best to sort of like give people the benefit of the doubt, even when I disagree with them in terms of like who they are. I mean, obviously, if somebody's gone down the QAnon rabbit hole, there's like no coming back. Like, I can't have a conversation with you if you think like, that there's baby eating fucking ceremonies and they're serving baby back ribs of human placenta at freaking Hillary Clinton and Ellen DeGeneres' house. Like if you're there, I mean,
don't forget about the all the higher up elites. They're actually the lizard people.
I always say to them like, all the best to you and your family. That's my way of saying like we can't have a conversation.
That's almost like the Southern bless your heart,
Yes,
exactly that. It's bless your heart because what do you like? I got messages from people where they're like, they send me these chains of like, holy shit, it's like a book, and it's like, oh, the Illuminati, the number 6. If you multiply it by 1384, and then you add minus 35, you get 19. COVID-19. Coincidence? I think not. Oh, you can see it's all there, buddy. Like, okay, thanks.
Well, I'm gonna throw in a question that we're not gonna keep it too much longer. Right? We very much appreciate this, but what do you call it? Speaking of messages like that, you being obviously a very person that most people know who you are. Do you ever get like ridiculously crazy messages?
Yes, of course.
Like oddly absurd, like from a millionaire, be like, "Hey, I have a $10 million poker table. I'd like you to bang my wife on it."
Never opened one like that. But I know, yeah, that'd be interesting. But yeah, the most common one is, "Hey Daniel, I'm in like Siberia and I need help. Send me $3,000 online. I need it to pay my bills." And I'm like, Come on. Like I get too many of those. I can't just give everybody money who asks.
Daniel, you're a person, you put yourself out there on social media, whether it's politics, whether it's the vaccine, whether it's sports, anything about your life is put out there. Do you get a lot of haters? Is the block button something you use frequently?
A decent amount, but here's the thing. The thing about haters is, like, I love one of my favorite quotes is this. It goes something like, say nothing. Oh, in order to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing. Right? And that's not the way I want to live my life. Right? I'm okay with it. I believe that, like, if I live my life in such a way where I didn't have haters, then it wouldn't be authentic. Right? Because if you take an opinion on nothing and you just ride, the middle, no matter what, you just don't say anything about saying anything, you can do that. Right? Sure. But I'd rather be authentic and honest. And if I feel a certain way, I'm going to say so. And if you hate me because of one of my personal beliefs, like, that's on you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't agree with me on my view on cancel culture or whatever. Okay. It's fine. Like, whatever, have your way. But like, if all of a sudden you go from like, I used to be a fan of yours until you said you took the vaccine. I'm like, and now you're not a fan because I went and got a fucking shot in my arm. Like, now you hate me because I got the evil fucking vaccine in my system. Like, bro, it's like, that stuff is like, it's unfortunate that that's the world we live in, but like, I take it with a grain of salt, right? I get far more people who are, silent majority, if you will, that actually do appreciate my honesty and whatever. And occasionally you get, the thing about the haters is they're the loudest ones, right? Like, when you think about it, anytime there's something going on, like if you think about the country as a whole, right? I'd say like 70% of us are somewhere in the middle of something, right? Okay. We're reasonable people. We're reasonable people. We might have some slight disagreements on healthcare and the best way forward or whatever. But then you got like the 5 to 10% on the extreme of both sides. And they're the loudest voices. And they represent each side, but they don't, right? On social media, they do. So you think that everybody who identifies as liberal or conservative identifies with these groups, but they don't, right? Like, I consider myself a classic liberal, old school, like Obama, whatever, left of center, right? I don't identify with the like far left progressive wing of the party, and I don't identify with the right. There's crazies on both sides, and I think they're just so loud that they drown out everybody in the middle who doesn't want to get involved. But the majority of us, if we actually sat and had conversations, I think I appreciate most is I see these videos. I can't remember who does it, but they'll have like a Republican and a Democrat sit together and they talk for like an hour, but they don't talk about politics. They talk about their life. They talk about their daily situations. And they come from similar worlds. Maybe they're a pastor and whatever. And by the end of the conversation, they realize that they really like each other and they understand each other better and they're not so different, right? If we did that, had conversations like that, rather than social media bubbles of extreme and like, I hate them, they're nuts, they're crazy, blah, 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 blah. Like, I think we do a lot better. But that dream world is gone. Social media has destroyed it. Like, we will never, and especially because all the algorithms are designed to further put you in those camps. Facebook and Twitter or whatever, they just continually put in your feed more crazy wacko shit.
Because they want the conversation. They want it to go, and they want people.
They want your attention. They want you to stay in that bubble. They're not interested in you getting a balanced view of the world, right? Like, that's the thing. If you like, what people don't understand is like, if you're in a bubble that's, say, for example, extremely left progressive, and then you're in one who's like, say, a Fox News, Newsmax person, you live in two completely different worlds. What you see on your feed is completely different than the other person. So when the other person's talking about what they see, you're like, what are you talking about? That's not even real. I've never seen it. Because
it's also on part the media. Like you said, is one's watching one, watching the other. They're getting completely biased views, and they don't think the other exists or the other is right.
Yeah, well, yeah. Everyone gets their own version of the news today, and it's sad because in the old days, you watched Walter Cronkite, and that was the news, right? That was it. That was actual news. Now we have, it's not even like cable news is not even news. Like, I don't watch it. I watch BBC. The only thing I watch, I swear, the only thing I watch is BBC World News, because you know why? It's about the fucking news.
Yeah,
that's it. They tell me what's happening in Ukraine, what in Somalia, in Australia. Like, I find out about what's going on in the world. Whereas if you turn on one of these cable things, they're still talking about shit from 4 years ago, about emails and spying and Hunter Biden and what the fuck, man? You're just creating like dramatic TV for the sake of it. Whereas I think in America, people who are like sucked into just the cable news networks, they really have no idea what's going on in the world. They have no idea what's happening in Kazakhstan, in Tigray, Africa, in the droughts, in Nigeria, and all these things, because they're just so consumed with like whatever Trump tweeted yesterday. You know what I mean?
I do think it's funny though that 20 years ago never was like this. You didn't tell people who you voted for. It was like a taboo thing, and the news itself just it didn't work like this between the left and the right.
And that was a good thing, because I think, like, they say, at a dinner table, you don't talk about, politics or religion or whatever, right? And now it's like, it's all we talk about, like, constantly. It's like, and the problem is now it's like you're labeled and you're part of a tribe. When you have a certain belief or whatever, you're lumped in now. And I don't like being lumped in, right? Because I'm an independent thinker, okay? I believe in a lot of, like, here, for example, I believe that healthcare should be a fucking right. Okay, that's I believe, like, in every other civilized country, right? If you're a citizen or whatever, you can go to the doctor if you're sick, and it doesn't destroy your life. If your kid gets sick, you'll be taken care of. One of the reasons I do charity work for St. Jude Children's Hospital is they don't bill the parents, they don't bill the kids. So they just take care of them, and they do their best. And that's the way the world should be. That's my belief, right?
I don't disagree with you. I think the biggest problem with that is that hospitals and insurance companies have become businesses rather than about helping people.
Well, that's why I would obliterate them. Because I wouldn't have an insurance company.
That's why certain things I obviously I think the government fucks up a lot of things, but that's why stuff like prisons, hospitals should be government run. They shouldn't be for-profit systems. They should be sustainable systems.
Right. So we agree, right?
When they're private, they're for profit.
So because I have that belief, right? So that would be considered a liberal belief, right? But it's just a common sense belief to me, right? And I grew up in Canada, and I see how it works in most countries. And it's a shame that we're the only civilized country in the world that doesn't have universal health care. It's like really weird. And the thing is, I don't believe the Canada system's the best. I think a system where you offer both private and public. So for people that can afford it and that want their own doctors or whatever, they can do so. And for those that can't, they have, the government-run healthcare, like offering the best of both worlds to people. So now if I had that belief, I could have that discussion 20 years ago with people, right? Like that were conservatives, and they say, well, this and this and this. But today, it's not about, people don't have discussions about policy anymore. It's not like, let's discuss what's best. It's like, it's about the hate of the people themselves. Like, Biden sniffed a girl's hair. He's a demon who eats babies, Oh, Trump had sex with a porn star without a condom, or whatever. Like, all the shit that doesn't matter.
Who cares?
All the shit that doesn't matter, rather than like the reality of like, well, okay, well, what if we could actually, instead of like be focused on which group is in power all the time, have them actually work together to try to create policies that work for the people. But that's not going to happen anymore.
How dare you ask them to work together?
They can't anymore. They will never work together again. They will never work together again, because every time one group is in power, the whole goal of the other group is to sabotage them so that they gain power next time. So no matter who it is, whether it's Trump, whether it's Obama, whether it's Biden, whoever's on the other side has every incentive not to work with them, but to destroy them, so that in the next election you can say, see, they didn't get shit done. I'm like, yeah, they didn't get shit done because you wouldn't do nothing with it.
I think a case in point is the Supreme Court. And like we don't really get political on this. But
we don't get political, but you know what? I'm enjoying it.
Here, what horse shit was that?
I think
that was some horse shit, the whole Supreme Court thing, where it's like, well, you can't, we got to nominate him. Well, you can't nominate a thing in the last year where you can't. Like,
well, here's the thing, though. It's what you said about sabotaging that. Oh, we got to get a liberal judge in there now. And before it was got to get a Republican. The whole point of the Supreme Court is to have unbiased judges to interpret the Constitution. And I think somewhere along we lost that of, it's got to, I want a liberal judge in there. Or I want to, no. You want, like I said, an unbiased judge to interpret the Constitution.
Well, what's funny about the Supreme Court thing that you say, what's just so funny is, like, you can literally look at quotes of Mitch McConnell, for example, saying, well, let's let the American people decide. Obama's in his last year as president, so let's let the people decide in the election a year fucking later, right? So we cannot put anybody in, no Merrick Garland, right? Then Trump's got like a couple weeks left, right? He's got like a month left. You're like, well, we got to fill the seat. We got to fill the seat. So literally, when it benefits you, you say we can't fill the seat for the same reason Later, you say that you can. It's just like they're so blatantly open to hypocrisy. They give no fucks. They're like in just bald face, like it's shameful. Where you can literally take from in year one, this is my position, but now it benefits me, so now this is my position. It's like it's really comical when you think about it, except it's not funny.
But all this goes back to what you said, the ability to have a conversation. I don't have to agree with everything you say or everything you believe, but we can have a conversation and find out that we agree on 90% of the shit. It's just the 10% we don't. And it's about sitting there and like I said, having that conversation and saying,
I think everybody wants a better life for themselves and their kids. Everybody, right? Whatever side of the spectrum we're on. So maybe two people have slightly different views on how to get that done, right? But the end goal is the same. You guys all want the same stuff. You want safety for your children. You want, all those things. But we focus so much on all the things that we disagree on that we forget that, for the most part, we all want the same things.
Yeah.
Daniel, I got two more questions for you, then we'll let you go. Thank you so much for the extra time you've given us tonight on the podcast. Real quick, Rounders. Is that the best poker movie ever? And if they made a Rounders 2, is that something you want to be a part of?
Well, Rounders was no question the best movie that poker movies ever made. Absolutely. I'm friendly with Brian Koppelman and Dave Levine. I've heard about the Rounders 2 script, floating around, and I'd obviously play a role, but I don't think they would want, to do that. But anything to support them, I would do happily.
What was the other one that floated? Was it called 21? The one with Kevin Spacey?
21 was with Kevin Spacey.
Oh, that was a blackjack.
They taught the kids how to count cards.
Yeah, that was a blackjack movie.
That wasn't bad. So I'm going to ask one quick one. Obviously, you're a casino guy, but you got any other vices as far as, are you a sports gambling guy? Are you a horses guy? Because I'm a sports gambling guy, and specifically soccer.
I wouldn't call them vices, because when I do stuff, I usually devote a lot of time and energy to it. So I started out golfing. When I first started, I guess you could consider it a vice because I was stuck a few $1 million playing golf. But then I got a coach, and now he's become a close friend and helps me with a lot of things. And I got all that money back. But other than that, I don't really have a vice at all. I'm so regimented, work out. I don't drink. I haven't had a drink this year. I will. It's not like, I don't drink. But if I was going to go out, I would drink. I just haven't. You know what I mean? It's not a thing that's a regular part of my life. So yeah, I don't cocaine, no drugs, nothing.
Okay, I guess that question came off wrong. I shouldn't have used the word vices. I just meant more like in the gambling perspective.
I'm a fantasy hockey guru. Like right now I got, my fantasy. I've been in the same fantasy hockey league since 1996. It's my favorite thing to do in the world. The same group of guys, basically. We own like 43 players per team. So you're talking about 1,000 players. We have a 20-man farm system. It's like owning a team. I mean, it's my favorite thing in the world to do. Full-time job, and I love it. I spend thousands of hours, a year focusing on prospects and stuff.
We did that with baseball. With Jerry was our minor league scout, but not that deep.
Yeah.
Hey Daniel, my last question for you. So obviously you're 47 years old. 50 is right around the corner.
Hey, don't insult the guy.
Somebody that.
I would have said he's 39.
I don't care. I know how sexy I am.
Somebody with the life that you have. Do you have any regrets? Is there something you might have done that you wish has played out differently, or is there something that you have not done that you want to do?
Well, I don't really believe in regret, right? Because every mistake that I've made has led me to here, right? So if you change anything from the past, right, you might change your path to where you are. I love where I am now. I'm married to my dream girl. I have the perfect house, 2 cute little puppies. I got, I'm financially stable. I've had success. So if I look back, obviously there's things that I look at in the past. I go, okay, I would do that differently. I wouldn't have done that. I know better now, of course, as you get older. But regret isn't the word I'd use, again, because all those things I use as building blocks, all those mistakes that I've made as building blocks to get me where I am, right? It's almost like saying, you have the perfect life now. Would you change anything? No. I'm good. Yeah.
All right, Daniel, this was great. Thank you for the extra time. An hour and 10 minutes. I couldn't imagine this. This was great.
You got it, boys.
Anything you want to plug real quick? Where can we see you next? GG Poker, Poker Go. What's on the itinerary?
For me personally, I'll be playing the U.S. Poker Open coming up in March. But there's a tournament on GG, which is for those people that kept playing on GG Poker. I don't know if you can't in the U.S., but they're doing $150 buy-in on GG Poker with a $5 million guarantee, which is insane. They're not going to hit it. There's going to be a lot of added money. So if you're in a jurisdiction outside the U.S. and you can play on GG Poker, check that out. I believe it's on March 20th. $150 buy-in, no reentry, and it's going to have a lot of. If they actually hit the guarantee, I already said I'll shave my head.
All right, Daniel, thanks a lot for coming on. To follow Daniel on Twitter, it's @RealKidPoker. Daniel, thanks a lot for coming on. Have a great night,
guys. Have a good
Thank
one.
you very much.
Later, boys.
Russ, I gotta say, as a big of a fan of his as I am, that was probably one of my best moments on this podcast, having him on for an hour and 10 minutes. We went into politics. We went into everything. We had a nice conversation. I mean, as a poker fan, it's a guy I've idolized. I've gotten his autograph. You know, you've heard this before. I've watched him play. I've sat there. I've been the fanboy. Have him on for this long was unbelievable. Daniel, I can't thank him enough.
Yeah, no,
as you would say, I'm hard.
I'm hard. I'm not really a poker player, but I know who he is, and I got to tell you, that was exceeded my expectations.
Yeah,
he's a very, very good guy to talk to, and
he's real. He's down to earth. I mean, he's a normal guy. It's spectacular. I can't.
Down to earth is right. Motherfucker went on a podcast with us. We have like 300 followers.
Listen, and you know what? Phil Helmuth came on. Daniel came on. I appreciate everything those guys have done for us. Jeff Black came on twice. I appreciate that as well. You know,
we love Jeff Black.
I'm sure if you said to me, 8 months ago, hey, you and Russ are going to do a podcast, it's going to have 300 people following. But by the way, you'll have Phil, Jeff, and Daniel on. I would have said, yeah, nice joke.
What do we have? Oh, wait, no, 323. Nice.
Hey, let's talk about the Super Bowl quick, and then
Super Bowl sucked.
Rangers are down 1-0 to Boston right now. Just a little heads up on that.
Sidney Crosby has scored his 500th.
Rangers, after the first period, had 2 shots on goal. 2 shots.
Fuck, really?
Yeah. Yep, down 1-0 1. Bruins with 1-0 lead. Boston 8 shots. Rangers with 2.
Jeez, that 2-week layoff really killed us.
Yeah.
But it's not over. And no. But as far as the Super Bowl goes, fuck the Super Bowl. I didn't hit a single box. Lost all my bets, and the Bengals didn't even win. If I'm going to lose all my fucking money, I might as well at least give me the Bengals win there. Christ.
You know who had the Rams before the season started, Russ?
Yes, so some fucking dog's ass who gets fucking threw a lucky guess out there in the top 5 game. Listen, you'd be saying the same shit about me if the Buccaneers got there and won. I said Buccaneers and fucking. I called the Browns.
You said Bucks and Browns. You did.
Yeah.
You said Bucks and Browns.
I thought that maybe this was the year that Baker actually maybe did some noise, but then again, we didn't see the whole Odell thing happening and everything. So, and I guess Baker sucks.
Yeah, it was a great game, though. I mean, honestly, the commercials were good. I got to say, the E-Trade baby making an appearance. The Sopranos with the electric Chevy Silverado, I believe it was great. I didn't know where that was going at first, and I was like, wait, what's this?
Hey, that was actually decent little flashback with Meadow Soprano there.
Yeah.
Other than that, dude, I actually thought the commercials were terrible. The only thing I liked was the halftime show. I know a lot of people were.
A lot of people said it's the best halftime show ever.
I think very, very divided based on age groups. I still don't know why Kendrick Lamar was there because they did not fit whatever, but I enjoyed it. Played the classics that I listened to when I was a kid. But I was in the room with a couple 65-year-olds that were like, this isn't music. It's the worst show ever.
As somebody our age, it's obviously music that you've heard in the club, you heard in the bar, you heard it, in the car.
Fucking senior year, playing the CD in my freaking car and freaking acting like we were cool, and we were probably we looked like idiots. But we thought we were cool. That's all that mattered.
Listen, it was a good halftime show. Obviously, people have their opinions on it, whether it's the greatest of all time or people didn't like it at all. I'm somewhere in the middle. I enjoyed it at moments, and then at moments it's like, all right, maybe somebody else like a Prince was more iconic. You saw.
Well, I think
people say a Springsteen or Billy Joel would have been more iconic. I get the argument. I get the discussion.
I think the big thing was with Prince is that back then I was like, all right, it's Prince. I like a couple songs. Now I love Prince. Like I like Meatloaf. Like the older I get, the more I appreciate the older music. But the other thing was that Prince played like during like a fucking thunderstorm, and the performance itself was insane. And Michael Jackson was Michael Jackson. For me, though, I enjoyed it. It was a simple yet cool set. There wasn't all this chaos like I do like The Weeknd. I did not like his performance the other year because it was just fucking chaos. Or Maroon 5 the other year, Adam Levine was, my wife might like to look at him, but his voice, they were horrible. But
yeah, then you had
enjoyed
Coldplay
it
a couple years ago. You had Justin Timberlake,
Mary
with
J.
Janet
Blige.
Jackson.
She may be 50 or so, but I think she might get it. And I know I do want to bring something about here. It was kind of funny because I know people were saying 50 cents now, $1.
Oh, Jesus.
But I do want to say something here. As being a larger person, there's a double standard in this fucking body positivity bullshit. Because everybody shit on 50 Cent, and I think rightfully so. It was kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie. And but meanwhile, everyone shit on him. But yet, if there was a woman up there that got, put on a shitload of weight, everyone would be like, "Yo, go girl, you're," the guys always get shit on. So that body positive. Look at like American Eagle. Everything is body positivity. Large women, women of all sizes. That's fine. But you ain't got no pictures of fucking big men up there. I mean, come on. We're not allowed to wear, not that I'm wearing American Eagle at 38, but what do you call it?
Russ, do you want to be in the Super Bowl halftime show next year? Maybe we can arrange that.
Yeah. I'll figure out a fucking skit. I play a mean air guitar. I play air drums. I play the whole slew of instruments. I even rock out to a mean air piano.
That'd be something to see. Hey, just touching up on the game real quick. Matt Stafford finally got the monkey off his back, leading that drive.
How does
what
Jared
a year
Goff
that guy
feel?
put together.
How does Jared Goff feel that Stafford steps in 1 year and they win? Granted, they added Odell and they added Von Miller and whatnot. But
when Odell went down, I honestly thought the game was over. I was like, this is it.
I had Odell
Bengals
over
are winning.
64.5 yards. He went down at 52 yards, and I was like, you motherfucker.
Oh.
And I guess it's rightfully so. Jamar Chase, Jamar Chase had 6 catches, which I had him over 5.5. However, because the one pass in the one pass where he basically ran it, it was a backwards pass, so they changed it to a rush. So it was the right
so they
call.
went from 6 to 5.
It went from 4 to 3, I think, because he had a pass, basically a swing pass, where he came down the line but it was considered a backwards pass, but it wasn't updated till like a quarter later.
So that affected your the bet that you placed on that.
Yes, and then Burrows fell like 3 complete. If he didn't get sacked and continued that drive, I would have hit the Burrow completions. He had 23. I had over 24.5. I need Jamar Chase, one more catch. And then I had Cam Akers over 58 yards rushing, which I could see him breaking one, but he didn't do fucking shit. I think he had more attempts than yards. And then there was that weird Henderson coming in for rushes, but not so. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm surprised Akers didn't have a better showing. I mean, he gets the ball and he goes half a yard. Gets the ball, goes a yard. I'm like, what's going on?
Before we get out of here, though, one quick thing is if you saw Richard Sherman made some comments about.
Didn't see them. Did not see them.
People were saying like oh, Stafford's now gonna get be a Hall of Famer, and Richard Sherman I think brought up a good point. Stafford has basically no awards as far as
Pro Bowls, All Pro,
yes, All Pros, All Decade, player, Offensive Player of the Year, MVPs. He doesn't have them. He's been just a good quarterback on a shitty team for years. And I think Sherman's point was saying that what happened to all the elites getting into the Hall of Fame, that we're starting to let in people or consider people that are good, but are not like these elite players. It's almost getting watered down just to get people in. And I kind of wonder, too, that plays I know some people were pissed off that Devin Hester didn't get the call. And being that he was such an iconic punt returner, but at the same time, the guy was one of the greatest punt returners or kick returners of all time. Yes,
and you have to honor that. That's.
But he didn't do anything else. He was a terrible wide receiver.
Yeah,
so I mean, but then if you're going to vote in Hester, Steve Tasker was one of the best special teams players of all time and had an impact on every game and on every punt and kick return. So there's a lot to consider there, you know. And then you're gonna put in Devin Hester over people like a Torrey Holt or or Reggie. Wait, Torrey Holt get in last year?
I have to look that
or
up.
Maybe or a Reggie Wayne that had Hall of Fame stats or at least close to it. So I don't know. It brings a point though that at what point do you stop letting the good, slightly above average players in and start making, I'd rather have a smaller draft class of elite players than a larger draft class of a bunch of above average players mixed in.
So Torrey Holt has been a finalist for the third straight year for the Hall of Fame.
That's what I'm saying. I think he's close on that borderline, but I think that was my point is you got guys like that, Reggie Wayne, that were like, they're on that borderline. And, but you're letting other people in, or considering other people that are all right. Hester ran back more touchdowns than anyone, but then at the same time is who did I fear more, Hester or Deion Sanders? And if you even look at average yards, I think Josh Cribbs and somebody else has more average yards for return. It's just he broke a bunch more,
It's listen, kick returners. That's their position. Punters, that's their position. There has to be places for them in the Hall of Fame. There has to be.
I get it. At the same time, is I think if Hester was an extremely good, or at least a good wide receiver, I think it'd be more relevant. But the fact that he just was not a good receiver, he just was a great punt returner, kind of waters it down for me.
Just checking in on the Rangers real quick, Russ. It's still 1-0 Boston with 3.5 minutes to go in the second. Rangers now have 13 shots, no goals obviously, and Boston has 17 shots. So you're definitely getting some more activity in the second period compared to the first.
Shots.
Yeah. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Listen, I can't thank Daniel Negreanu enough. One of the best players ever. The resume is, spectacular. It's impeccable. It's a hell of a moment for me, hell of a moment for the show. I can't thank him enough. Reach out to Daniel if you want on Twitter at RealKidPoker. You can follow him on YouTube as well. His social media followings are huge.
I'm going to retweet it. I hope he follows me.
He's following the show. When he followed the show, I was like, "Holy crap, this is amazing."
Oh, hold on a sec.
What? What do you got?
My exact fat shaming point. I just see a thing. Just double checking. We can fat shame 50 Cent, but not Lizzo, right? There's a valid point to it. There's a valid point.
Shouldn't be fat shaming anybody. That's the bottom line.
We do. We're a bunch of assholes. We do. Yeah. Believe me. Anytime somebody gets mad at me, or I get into an argument with somebody, or road rage, or whatever, the first words out of everybody's mouth, "You fat fuck."
It's ridiculous.
You think I'm kidding?
It's ridiculous. All right, so that's going to wrap up episode 36.
Live from New York. It's Tuesday night.
Thank you again to Daniel Negreanu for coming on. We'll see you guys episode 37.
I don't get to thank you. Week. All right, fuck you.
Russ, thank you for everything. This was great. Follow Russ on Twitter at WrestleMania61. As Russ says, you can light him up on Twitter if you'd like. You can follow me at Jerry with the mic. And
Jerry with the mic and the Eiffel Tower hair.
You can. Hey, I like this.
Well, there goes Robin Quivers. She's fucking.
Yeah, guys, at Jerry with the mic on Twitter. You can light up my hair if you want. Doesn't matter. Real quick before we go, I gotta say, I was listening to the Laugh Fest with Medina Spirit, and then I was listening to the comments that Joey Boots made last week about Robin Quivers being your wife. I gotta say, those are probably two of the funniest moments we've ever had on this show.
She's in fucking tears over here.
Oh, it's great. Bob Heagley is in the chat. He's laughing as well. Oh man.
All right.
All right. Well, everybody. This is episode 36. Have a great night. We'll see you next week. Take care.